Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Dax Podcast, the only live podcast based in China. This week, we have come to you and we are bringing virtual book tour to everyone in the world. This week, we are bringing special people who are based in China, and they are no other people than authors, people who have taken time to craft write something to impact lives in this world through books. And today we are with one special guest, which we have already have had him on this platform before, where he shared about his story about coming to China. Today he's not coming to talk about China, but he is coming to talk about his book titled That Cloud Has a Silver Lining. He is currently a teacher in China, based in China, and today he'll be telling us much about his book. One thing I really love about him is his surname. His surname, yeah, Matlheketlha in simple form is his surname. He is from South Africa and he is popularly known as Tshepo from South Africa. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you for welcoming me. I am doing A-OK today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very fine. I'm so happy to have you today, and to our viewers who are watching live, comment in the comment section. Let us know where you are watching live from.
Yes. Thank you for this platform. This is actually an amazing platform, and I love being here. I'm actually happy I'm invited here twice, so it is a privilege and an honor, actually.
Wow. You
Mm.
are the author of the book titled That Cloud Has a Silver Lining.
Yes.
Before we talk about that cloud, who is Mr. Tshepo?
Who am I? I Hey, but my wife looked at me very strange when I said I'm a musician. She looked at me with strange eyes. But I think I'm a musician. I'm an
Okay.
artist. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I'm a teacher. I'm a man of God, and I am a servant leader. So I thrive in areas of communication and also working as teams and groups. I am a married man with a very beautiful wife and two
Wow.
daughters. One daughter is 11 and the other one is only 3 months old. And I'm residing
Oh,
at the moment.
wow.
Wow.
Interesting. I was expecting you to say you are that cloud, but
Ah, I'm not that cloud.
interesting. Wow.
Uh,
When I looked at that title, I was like, that cloud has a silver lining. To me,
yeah.
it was so special to me. What really inspired
Right.
this
This
title?
Well, the title was because I used to write, I wrote a lot of poetry, right? And my poems were always related to the emotion that I'm going through. And as I write, I finally put my emotion to rest. So if it was a very high emotion, it comes back low. If it was a very low emotion, it comes back high. So for me, it reminded me of a thunderstorm. Originally, when it was summer in South Africa and you see a thunderstorm coming, we get disappointed because it means we must get out of the rain, go and hide in the house, no more playtime outside. But the thunderstorm always brought the smell of rain, and the rain was so good. That's the one thing we loved about thunderstorms. And also, it brought rainbows. So, not everything about the thunderstorm was bad. So, seeing
Okay.
that cloud means that even though it's going to bring a thunderstorm, it's also got something good behind it, like a rainbow and the smell of rain. So that cloud has a silver lining, meaning seeing that silver on it is actually a good thing, not just the thunder, but also the rainbow.
Wow. Interesting.
Mm.
Actually, today, when I was just coming back home, I saw the rainbow and I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. I wish I could have shared that. I
Mm.
never thought about the tender being good in some way to us. Even in
Yeah.
Ghana, we always see the tender as very bad, causing harm. Sometimes it even destroy buildings.
Mm.
Wow. But
Yeah.
you are reminding us of that positive side of the thunderstorm. That
Yeah.
cloud has a
So,
silver lining.
did you
So,
notice
in
that
short,
the silver is spelled wrong, right? Because it's supposed to be Silver.
yes, I
I
was
was
even
even
about to
about
ask why this kind of silver.
yeah. It's because my second name is Sylvanus, but I have never gotten to use it. And people only know me as Tshepo Matlheketlha. But that silver, I took out the I and put the Y because it was written by me. As a writer, I recognize myself as the silver typer or the silver writer. And therefore, this is my special standing out point for it to stand out. Touched, in other words, this was touched by me.
Wow, interesting. In
Mm.
fact, when I was used to be very lazy, I never liked poems because poems make you think so much before you really get the actual meaning of
Mm.
their writings.
Mm.
What really inspired you to become a poet in this sense?
You have no idea. When I wrote my first poem, I actually was like you. I hated poetry. I hated that we had to analyze everything and put the prose and put the. There were so many things we did in high school that I don't remember. And I really,
Yeah,
really hated poetry. Maybe it was the way the teachers taught us, they were not as excited about it. But when I wrote my first poem, I was going through some very deep emotions. At the time, I couldn't explain them. And I don't think my friends were mature enough to understand me at the time. So I just took a pencil and I started writing down how I felt. And then one of my friends grabbed it out of my hands and he read it. He's like, "Hey, are you rhyming? Are you writing a rap song?" And I'm like, "No." Like, this sounds like a poem. And I took it back and I read it. I'm like, yeah, it rhymes. and I was actually shocked at myself. They kept
yeah.
that. I don't even remember what I wrote. And then from that day on, I knew that if I was feeling a certain way, I could at least express it better on a page. And I would write my poems inside of a small booklet. The book was very tiny. I mean, it was actually smaller than this one. And I would just
Wow.
one poem. Sometimes one poem would go to 2 pages, but it was as a result of not being able to tell people how I feel. It was my secret corner where I could share my emotions, and it got better
Wow.
with time. So the inspiration was from a movement of emotions. But otherwise, I have to also tell you, my father, when I was growing up, used to read me poems. In fact, he didn't read me, he used to recite poems to me. So whenever he felt the need, he would just quote from the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and rumbling the wrecks came coming tumbling, out of the tumbling came the mighty humbling. And I was like, whoa, that sounds like a rap song. No, it's from a poem called The Pied Piper of Hamelin. And he'd always, once in a blue moon, just come and recite some parts of a poem. And I love that. I used to love it so much that I didn't understand why he was not a teacher of poetry. But to me, he was. So I got inspired to write.
Wow. To our viewers who are watching live, you can comment in the comment section. We want to know where you are watching us from live. We are with our author, Tshepo, the author of That Cloud Has a Silver Lining. I have got my book already. If you don't have it, any platform, you should get it. And this book will really inspire you so many ways. I'm really impressed that as a male, you didn't do anything bad with your emotions, but rather you express your emotions in a form of a book. That is
Yes.
really inspiring, that
Yeah.
most men should learn from. We hear so many men committing suicide. I don't know
Mm.
what that emotion had been, but for you, you were able to write a book, and that
Yeah.
is really applauding.
Thank you.
When I was going through your book, I realized you said you used 12 years to write this book. Wow. How was the journey?
The journey was very tumultuous because I did not write them in one go. Um, you must understand some emotions I either wrote them on a piece of paper that was not in the book. I had the book, and sometimes my emotions happen and I'm far from my book, so I just write it, and sometimes I put it inside of another book and it gets lost. So I would write my poems one day when I find my book. I would write them one day when I don't find it. I write it on a piece of paper, paste it inside of that book if I have the chance. Sometimes I would write inside of the bus. Sometimes I would write inside of the toilet. Other days I would write in class if the classroom was boring and I was feeling very emotional. I just write in, and it looks like I'm writing notes, but I'm writing a poem. And uh, they collected. They keep on collecting. Eventually, one day I woke up and I found that I have three. Can you believe three of this kind, this size book? They were full of poems, and I was like, "Wow, what am I doing with my life?" And I decided to share. I decided to share with some people, and my dad specifically said, I think you should write a book. You should write a book. You've got all of this material. It deserves to go into a book. At the time, I didn't think I would even write a book, but he felt that if you can write this amount of poetry, then it should be
Yeah.
a book. Yeah, it did take me a while to get to the point of writing it because I mean, there's always some factors. You either don't have money, or you either don't have the time. But
Yeah.
one holiday, I decided to take them and start writing them into one book. But I had to now categorize them into this one goes into this love, this one goes into hate, this one goes into failure, this one, and so on and so forth. And eventually, in China, I had the time and I got to make it into a book.
Wow, that's so nice. I am just wondering how you were able to write every emotion. Is this something so easy for everyone? To me personally, I don't think that is something so easy. What really triggered you to be writing that? Sometimes when we are going through some emotions, we rather share with someone. But
Mm,
for writing, what do you think inspired you to write every emotion as a
mm,
man?
mm. Well, let me tell you, because I knew nobody would open my book,
Okay.
so I became brutally honest and I put it on the paper as I felt. I just knew that as soon as I close this book, not even my father will open it. So, phew, that's how I put it. And only later did I feel there's an element of rhythm in what I wrote, and it sounds quite nice. And actually, somebody can relate to this. So let me try sharing one and see what will happen. So the other thing that makes people more expressive is when you see other people expressive, you also feel like expressing. If you are at university, for example, our university had a hip hop group, but they were
Yeah.
actually a cipher group. Yeah, they were a cipher group, and they would get together on Thursdays around a corner of the university, and one person would stand up, start rapping freestyle, or I don't even know if it was freestyle or he memorized it.
Yeah.
He raps, another comes with a guitar, does some freestyle. The third one
With
comes
the style.
audacity to open a book and say, "This is what I wrote." Wow, wow, wow! I'm like, huh? People do that? Okay, I
With a
want to
book.
I want to do that too. I I want to read from my book, and I started joining, and the more I joined, the more I felt like I can write more, and I can express, I can share what I write.
That's really amazing.
Mm,
I, me as a male or as a man, I feel like sometimes the world does not welcome we men
mm,
expressing our emotions.
mm,
Example, in person.
yeah.
What advice will you give to anyone going through several emotions,
Mm,
especially as men?
mm, mm. I would say the sooner you find somebody. to tell about your problem, the sooner you will heal from there. In fact, there's a verse called James 5:16 in the Bible. It says, "Therefore confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed." So the whole purpose of confessing your sin is not to be condemned, it's for healing. So if something is really eating you inside and it's caused by your brother, why not tell him, and then you will be healed. You are healed by telling and confessing what's going on inside of
Wow. That is something I've really just learned. We as men should also express our emotions,
you.
not just females.
Yeah.
Interesting. We
That is
have Tshepo Maloma. He's saying,
whoa.
"Hola, Tshepo, my brother. Good to see you here live. Hope to see you soon. They are
Wow.
missing you somewhere." Commenting
Hey.
from South Africa, Seppo is the most talented artistic person, truly gifted. Well, thank you very much for watching live and stay tuned as he's coming to share most of his inspiring stories. Wow, you have made me learn that men should not be quiet. We should
Mm,
rather express our emotions. And I love how you have expressed your emotions.
mm.
Yours have been a book which can inspire others, a book which can guide others in the future.
Wow.
Interesting.
Wow.
From this book, from your book, in summary, if somebody is to get this book,
Yeah.
what do you think can this book bring to this person's life?
Mm. I think this book is supposed to bring hope. My name is Tshepo. Tshepo actually means hope. And in me writing and putting it in the structure that I put it, I realized that majority of my poems are pushing a theme of hope. If I have been in a certain circumstance that I did not like, I should not look at it as this is the end of me, but it should be, let me look over and see what will happen. I want to see what happens after this very bad time that I'm going through. Take, for example, if you have been in a very serious breakup, you date somebody for 6 years, and for some reason the relationship doesn't work out. Some people really go into a mental breakdown. But
Yes.
when you read this book, you actually realize, whoa, okay, Tshepo has been in a couple of breakups, maybe 10, 15, who knows. And he came out of there taller than what he was. And so why should I die alone? I mean, it means there's actually hope on the other side of the breakup. There is somebody out there who will be right for me. If you have been in sin, for example, continuously sinning and sinning, and you feel like, wow, this is the time where God is going to kill me, or else I kill myself. But you
Yeah.
read the poetry in there and you find, wow, Tshepo was also quite a serious sinner, and he's still standing and he's still in front of us. So I don't think it's the end of me. I should actually rise up just like he did, and many others before him. And that's the message it spreads. Every poem has a sense of hope that this is not the end. There's still more after. There's a rainbow
That's
at the
really
end.
amazing.
Mm.
We should always be optimistic that there's a better future, a better tomorrow. You talked about
Yes.
emotions. So does it mean that these emotions are all about, should I say, negative emotions, bad emotions? What emotions were you trying to express in this book?
I would have to give some examples because they were always different. Okay. There
Yeah.
was a
Okay.
time I was so happy that I thought of myself as a good poet. So I wrote a poem about Johnny Walker. And I thought, Johnny Walker is famous for walking, but I'm famous for walking with my words because I walk on the heads
Oh,
of my head. So that was in an exciting mode, and I wrote it out of happiness and I put it there on paper. But there's another one where I was failing dismally at university. Wow, this time I was failing so badly that I was repeating a module for 3 years in a row. And I sat down with myself feeling I can't even study. I'm very stupid. and I wrote this poem that failing feels like it's the end of your life, feels like you're wasting your life and your time. And eventually, after writing the poem, you won't believe I
Yeah.
studied. I actually studied after that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is how powerful writing can be.
Yes. It relieved me. It relieved me. There is even a
Wow.
poem I was writing about heaven, but on this day I had an inspiration of heaven should be seen like this in a certain way. You can understand that emotion was not sad, it was not entirely happy, it was an emotion of an epiphany. This is a realization of why I should be looking forward to heaven, and I put it in the book as
Yeah.
Planet Vega. So the emotions vary, they vary very much.
Wow.
Mm.
This has really reminded me, for about 3 years ago, I was just imagining, oh, by this time I make this amount of money, I do this kind of project. I was just imagining.
Mm.
Then 3 years later, now, recently, I just reflected back and I was like, wow, with that imagination, I never thought it would be possible. I was just imagining like something like a mirage, but it happened.
It happened, right?
Wow. So this
Mm.
has really taught me that even instead of just imagining,
Mm.
after imagining, we should write it down. Because
Yes,
from your story, you were even able to study better after writing.
yes.
You were out of depression and you were really relieved.
Mm. I was. I was.
That's nice.
The writing really more than just writing it for people. I was writing it for me. I was the person who needed healing. So if I healed through my poetry, I'm imagining it's going to heal somebody else.
That's really true.
Mm.
There are several instances where we hear several students committing suicide for failure.
Mm.
Society frowns on you when you fail,
Yes.
parents frown on you when you fail.
Yes.
So it's very challenging. If you have never been in this situation, you will never understand or you will never relate. So
Mm.
anytime you have somebody who can relate in these instances, it
Mm.
really helps you to heal and
Yes.
believe that there's really hope at the other side. This
Most
is so
definitely.
powerful.
You have no
Wow.
idea that I actually studied for one course of my degree for 6 years. A degree is supposed to be 3 years, and if really you are struggling, it should be 4 years. But mine took 6 years. So I know what failure is. I've experienced it head-on collision. When you tell me about people who failed, I am one of those people. And on top of that, after finishing 6 years in university, the next 2 years was me trying to do honors. Ne? That means I spent 8 years trying to do honors for that degree that I spent 6 years. So in those 2 years, can you imagine what happened? I failed.
The
I
two
failed.
years again.
I failed. I failed. To a point where I went and I sat down in front of my father and we had a deep conversation. I asked him, Dad, I believe that I was not made for this course that I'm studying. And he said, I can see that. And I said, I'm very sorry for wasting your money that you've spent all these years. Uh, but I think it's time that I do something that I like. And he said, please tell me, what do you like? I said, teaching. I like teaching. And he said, why? I said, well, in the 2 years that I failed my honors, I was tutoring some students in chemistry, and their marks went higher and higher, maybe like 90%, compared to
Yes.
me who was failing in class. So I think teaching is my strong point. And he said, you know what? Go ahead and do what your heart desires. And the following year, my ninth year in university, I was doing teaching, and I almost got a cum laude.
Ooh. How was the feeling and the emotions during that time? We have several people where their parents scorn them, and even because of society stigmatization from friends, family, it becomes so hard
Mm.
for students or people in this situation. to
Mm.
overcome this difficult time? How was the emotion and the feeling?
You know, the feeling of finally passing and finishing university was so big that at that moment I said I will never go back to school ever in my life. I've done it. I'm done. It was so big. I felt like I need to tell the whole world that I am finally finished with education. I never even got to write it down because this time I was so happy. I expressed it loudly. I said it out. If I
Yeah.
was not so happy about it, I would have written a poem about it. But I was so happy that I started speaking, and I had no time to find my pen and write.
Wow. Upon Steven is watching live and he's saying, this is a touching story. And I wish a lot of brothers and sisters in schools will come across this and be motivated. Wow.
Wow.
Really, I feel every student needs this.
Yeah.
Me going to school, I never had that challenge of failing. I was always among one of the best in class until I went for an interview to get admission to the university. And
Okay.
I was so confident to pass, and I was rejected. That broke me down. That
I can imagine.
it killed me. It killed me at that time. I felt like I wasn't living. I had
Mm,
support from all other people, but I
mm,
felt like I wasn't living.
mm.
So you talking about this story, there are so many people going through these instances.
Yes.
After coming out of these instances, what is the advice you give to anyone who is currently in this situation or
Mm,
yet to come in this situation?
mm. That is a very good question. You must always sit down with God and with yourself and be true to yourself. If something is not made for you, then you need to change. You need to change. I mean, you cannot judge a monkey by its ability to swim. You cannot judge a whale by its ability to climb a tree. So, in school, unfortunately, we are always tested the same way, but we all have different abilities. I have the ability
Hmm.
to talk in front of people, but other people don't. And they don't have to because they're the ones who connect the electricity for us to see each other. So be honest with yourself. If you see that a course is very difficult and it's not for you, go back to the drawing board and say, hey, mom and dad, I know you wanted me to be an engineer, but I have a talent in law. I have a talent in mechanics. Please allow me to pursue what I've rightfully been made for.
Hmm.
9 years. It took me 9 years to get to that point.
Wow, we need to be honest to ourselves. And I
Yes.
can really relate. When I was rejected from that interview, I told you I was dead. I was living but dead.
Mm.
And it's true that time when I accepted that it's never possible for me to get. It's already
It's your
past and gone. It's through that period that I got the chance to come to China. And
mm.
through that, today I'm always grateful that I was even rejected. That was not meant for me.
Me too.
So I feel like I love that word you said. If it's not meant for you,
Mm.
you just be wasting your time. This is
Yeah.
really inspiring and motivating to anybody going
Mm.
through this situation. I'm
Mm.
really tired.
I'm glad. I'm very glad it's useful. My experience is supposed to be useful for other people. Otherwise, who am I serving?
After 9 years of coming out of it and today flashing back, what has that emotion been to your life?
Now, I love that emotion because it's a story I can tell. Back then, when I was struggling, I couldn't tell a story. I couldn't even tell where I was going, left or right. I mean, yes, I was writing poetry in my depressed moments, and I was doing this and that. I was involved in a lot of things in university. But you
Yeah.
cannot brag about what you were involved in when you haven't graduated.
Yeah.
I did not have a certificate to show that I was in university, so I could not brag about my other talents. So now I'm out of it, and I realize in those 9 years, I have gained experience that nobody can give me by giving me a degree. I now know that in those 9 years, I learned how to lead people, how to be in charge of a community, how to manage the finances of a group, how to manage the finances of a group of brothers in one apartment. I know how to be a transporter. I knew how to drive people from the airport, collect them, and take them back. I knew all the roads around our city because I took people from place to place in my spare time. I know communications of people in Korea and in different countries. Those are the things that I learned while I was studying towards my degree. But the only thing you get at the end of university is your paper. What about the rest of the
Yes.
thing? So, what I'm taking away from that 9 years is that it was not a waste. It was not a waste. It was for experience. It was also for testimony. And it was also to make me who I am now. I am this person because of those 9 years.
Hmm. This is really amazing to hear. Now you are so happy to say these things. But trust me, if you are within this period, even when people are advising you, there's a brighter future, there's something ahead, you feel like these people are just making noise.
Yes, yes.
How or what advice will you give to anyone in this situation
Mm,
currently in these kind of emotions?
mm. Especially if I meet in person somebody who said, I've been studying for 9 years, my brother, I'm not finishing my degree. I am personally going to tell them, listen, you're almost there. Just one more step. You're nearly there. Just hang in there. You can make it. It took me 9 years. You can make it. There is no timeline for how long it should be to finish a degree. That's for someone who's 9 years there. Someone who's approaching, maybe they're 6 years towards there. I'm going to tell them, have you stopped and checked yourself? Are you really in the field that is right for you, that God has called you to? If not, it's never too late to change. You can change today and start all over, and you will still finish. And you might even finish before 9 years is over.
Wow. You know what? I'm so happy that you are a teacher because you have gone through this experience. So anytime we have students who are going through this, you know how to guide them because
Mm,
you have already been there. It is very unfortunate that there are several instances we have teachers, lecturers who
mm,
even murder all students when they are in this situation. They worsen their cases. They
yeah.
discourage them. You are just useless. You can't do anything. Like you're a failure. And those instances. So I'm
Mm,
very happy you are a teacher because
mm,
you can really teach and guide people in these instances. What
mm,
about other teachers or lecturers, people in the teaching field
mm.
who has never gone through these emotions before?
Yeah. They are very
Have
harsh,
you ever thought
actually.
about it?
I've thought about it. In fact, let me tell you about the lecturer. Um, I don't want to mention his name. He might be watching. But
Yes.
uh, one lecturer, when I stepped into his class for the third year after failing it for 2 years, he said, Mr. Matlheketlha, welcome back. He knew my surname, he knew my name. I'm sure he even knew my father. And I felt so discouraged. Everybody was looking for Mr. Matlheketlha in the hall. And I just stepped in. So it's obvious he's the one at the door. That was such an embarrassing moment for me. And I feel if I was anybody else, I would have
Yes.
cried in that moment. And I'm very sure he did not just do that to me. He must have done it to somebody else who was repeating. And I
Yes.
imagined um, it means that most of the time lecturers and teachers don't have a psychology course. They don't have
Yeah.
what we call educational psychology, where they teach you how to manage the psychosis of students. In a class, you will always have those who are very good and those who are very bad. But as a
Yes.
teacher, you must be able to keep the balance such that those who are very good, you motivate them. Those who are very bad, you push them up to at least the standard where everybody else is. And that's the task of every teacher. Some classes you enter, you're supposed to teach them 5 times 5, but they don't know 1 times 1. So you have to start at the very bottom, teach them one times
Yeah.
one and times two. But in other classes, you find that they are way above what you're thinking. You challenge them as well. You say, guys, I'm happy you know more. And you don't
Yeah.
make them stupid for knowing more. You don't say, you should have been in grade 7. Why are you here? You know? Yeah. And that's what
Yeah.
some teachers do. A lot of them do it. If you are smarter than them, they will tell you that you should have been in a higher grade. If you are
Yeah.
less smart than them, they tell you that you shouldn't even be in this grade. You should have been lower. But our job as a teacher is to make every student feel that they are valued and we want to see them progress.
Hmm. This is really powerful and really touching.
Hmm.
I'm right now. I asked that question before because previously, when I never failed failure in school,
Hmm.
anytime I see any student who has failed in class, I took them as not serious
Hmm.
or just wasting family resources. This
Hmm.
is how I took them to be
Hmm.
until I also failed at a point. Then I realized that sometimes people do not fail just because they are not good.
Mm, 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 mm,
Sometimes you just fail until I face that. What do you think society should do, especially with teachers?
mm,
Anywhere you go with is teachers who guide students to rate to become presidents,
mm,
whatever field.
mm,
Don't you think we should have some, I don't know, psychological teaching or something, guidance for
mm,
teachers to know
mm,
how to psych students?
mm. I believe actually we should be in the age of sharing such. Like, for example, this platform that you have has a focus on asking questions that are relative to how we apply ourselves in life. And
Yes,
if somebody has the audacity, they can actually create a podcast about teachers and how to become better teachers. I mean, why isn't there a teaching podcast where teachers get to vent about why did I start being a teacher? I'm there for the wrong reason, probably, and that's why I'm
yes,
impatient for my children. Or I'm there to brag about the knowledge I have. Because some people do that. They became teachers so they can brag that they're actually smart. And
yes.
then you find that they are in the wrong place psychologically, wrong place spiritually, wrong place emotionally for the teaching job that they've got. It is actually important for us to have such podcasts. They change our nation, they change our people, they change our future. Because if you have good teachers, like
Yes.
I had one very very good teacher in my life. um Her name I can mention here because I used to hate her, and I eventually loved her. Her name was Miss Flint. She she saw me as a potential important somebody, and
Yeah.
she took me under her wing immediately when I got to the school, which means she kept her eyes on me on everything I did. When I was naughty, she put me back in line. When I was doing good, she would push me up, and I felt like she was just overbearing. But when I finished matric, I realized she had so much love for me, and if I
Yeah.
was ever to be anybody, I want to be her. I want to be
Wow.
that person. And those are the kind of teachers we need in our lives. Someone you can reference to and say, I am an engineer because of that teacher. I am a doctor because of that teacher. Because that person loved you. They showed the love, not just academically, but in understanding. When you failed, they understood why you failed and they helped you get back to passing. When you passed, they motivated you. Listen, keep on doing well and you will be this and that. So we do
Wow.
need platforms. We do. We need those platforms.
In fact, um, on that light, that podcast will sponsor a special gift for that teacher. After this live, I'll let you. I don't know if you have contact of that teacher. We'll buy something special in the form of a gift just to honor her for being in that light during that time.
Mm,
During these situations, when students are not really performing, teachers reject them, teachers
mm,
don't respect them, they look down upon them, their classmates everywhere. And
mm,
unfortunately for some, even their parents
mm-hmm,
look down upon them. So
mm,
I must say you were very fortunate to have such a good teacher who was
mm.
always there to guide you and direct you. Wow.
Correct. I was very fortunate.
In fact, for me, after going through several challenges in life, I've realized that these challenges are directions. They are
Mm,
there to help me guide others who are
mm,
going through such situations to come
mm,
out of it, to make
mm,
them stronger.
mm.
Mr.
Mr.
Seppo,
Tshepo,
among all these emotions, what are you doing for people in these several kinds of emotions?
well, right now, because I'm a teacher of my grade threes, this year I was a teacher of grade three. So my
Yeah,
grade plus, they were my children, they were my people, my community. I would spend time with each and every one of them to go through. Listen, I see you have a struggle with this. What do you think is going on? How can you change this? Okay, hey, I've seen you've improved with this. Keep on doing it. And so by the end of the year, my children knew what kind of person I am in their lives. They called me their dad.
yeah,
They called
wow,
me their because I genuinely cared. I put my life into their life. And prior to this is only because it's what's happening now. Prior to this, when I was in university, I poured my life into the first year students. When I was in my sixth year, I would spend a lot of time with my first year students who were struggling with their certain subjects because I was tutoring them. I would tell them, hey
yeah,
guys, listen, it's not the end. As you can see, I'm still here. You're not gonna die. Just pick yourself up and start all over. So I've always put an emphasis on helping one person at a time because it shows that you really care about them, even if it's not a big group of people, but one person who you give an ear to, and you can
yeah.
actually see into their situation, pray about it, talk about it, find solutions. That's more than enough. So
Wow.
that's what I do.
That's so nice, and I'm so happy to hear that. And the good news is you have documented everything here. So, to our viewers, try to get yours. That cloud has a silver lining. And I know definitely in a point in your life, you might be going through these emotions, and there will be a guide, and they will strengthen you, they will inspire you, they will motivate you in
Mm,
these emotions. Thank you so much for doing that. And I think I should learn from you. I should
mm.
start expressing my emotions, even in book form, for the future. Wow. I have just been wondering, anytime I read some books, the difficult part of reading a book is sometimes we get understanding which is totally different from what the author is trying to express. So I
Mm.
remember I read several books, but when I listen to the authors,
Yeah,
what they really try to express in that book
yeah.
is totally different from what the author really wants to express.
Ah, you might
Totally
ex-
different.
you might experience it in my book.
So
So
much.
your chance. This is your chance to ask, hey, what does this poem mean? This is your one chance.
So, um, for me, I think it's not just because it's a poem. Even with normal books,
Mm,
simple books, I mostly get different understanding to what the author is trying to, until I listen to them, their podcast, something, and I was like, oh, so this is what the author was trying to communicate.
mm.
Yeah. Have you thought about also explaining your book? Of course, we are having this virtual podcast, which is one
Mm.
of the reasons, but have you thought about having a platform to explain these emotions or sometimes? Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that was one of my future goals for my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Now on my YouTube channel, I post the poems, some of the poems, and I put them up
Yes.
there with the intention that people will comment and say, I don't understand line number six, blah, 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 blah. But people don't do that. So it means
Yeah.
that in the future, I can actually open up a live session where we get to talk about one poem and we break it down piece by piece into it. Like if you see how you and I are talking like this, I want
Yes.
to be able to, in the future, invite a fellow poet, a friend who is a pen friend, so that we can
Yes.
take one poem of his and one poem of mine and break them down as they read to me, and then I listen and I question, what about this and this? What does it mean? So in that
Yeah.
way, we are discussing it, but the audience is watching and they're probably asking the same questions, and they type
Yeah.
in that manner. That's where I'm aiming to go with my poetry channel.
Wow. That is so great. I'm happy you have something in line. And I'll be sending a link in the description box of his YouTube channel. You can follow his YouTube channel to learn more about his book. There's so much to learn from this book. And in fact, I'm really touched that your book is talking about one of the biggest challenges of students in the world. Every
Mm,
year, we have several people who commit suicide because
mm.
they fail in school. And your
Wow.
book is an antidote. It's like an antivirus to these people.
Yes,
Wow,
yes.
interesting. Because of time, to our viewers who are watching live, thank you for watching. And today, with our special guest, he is an author of the book title That Cloud Has a Silver Lining. And today, he's sharing several things with us. And I'm really motivated and inspired by the things he has been sharing in the book. When I was going through the book, I read a part which said, life is fair. But to me, I have come to believe that life is never fair.
Yes.
I have come to believe that in some instances, people have unfair advantages.
Mm-hmm.
Some do not have. Imagine a child born in a rich home
Mm,
and a child born in a poor home. They never decided that.
mm.
Mr. Tshepo, what do you mean by life is fair?
Mr. Dax, let me tell you how I came up to even the title and the poem. I was reading a book by Jeffrey Archer. He's one of my favorite novelists. His book was titled Cain versus Abel. And
Okay.
you know the story in the Bible, Cain was the one who killed Abel because Abel
Yes.
knew better. Yeah. So I was expecting to find, okay, this guy is going to break down Cain and Abel. But this Cain and Abel were totally different. Cain was born in a rich family, and Abel was born in not so in such a poor family that even that poor family was taken by the army and they were killed, and he was the only survivor. He was poorer than the
Oh,
word. But you know what? Both
yeah.
of them faced different circumstances coming up. And finally, when they met each other, they were at a pinnacle where they were equal, as if they were born of the same circumstance. And I thought to myself, you know, the only thing that's making it unfair is our understanding.
Hmm.
Life
Repeat
is
that again.
the only thing that's making it unfair is our understanding.
Hmm.
Because you don't understand, so you think it's unfair. The King of all kings, Jesus Christ, rode a donkey into the city. A donkey. Something that the Queen of Elizabeth has never ridden before. So it tells you a lot. It tells you that we don't understand everything. Life is fair because it's unfair to everybody, which makes it fair.
You should repeat that again. You are confused.
Life is fair because it's unfair to everybody, which makes it fair. I see you're still digesting. It was a line in the book as well. So what that actually means is that the rich man has the money but doesn't have the love. The poor man has the love but doesn't have the money. Both want something from each other, but both have nothing.
You know what? After you explaining this, you've made me flash back from where I started from. Growing up, if I look at my society, I see other people. These people have rich from rich homes, they have family with cars, and their life for me was different. So I really felt life was always unfair.
Mm.
So much. But right now, you've made me realize that where are those people now? Those people, I saw them from rich homes in class, they weren't performing. They
Yeah,
couldn't, like, their parents could sponsor everything,
no
but we would
drive.
take their books. Yeah, we I would take their books and learn and pass, but they have everything, but they can't.
Mm.
So, wow, this is a powerful revelation I never thought of.
That's why I was saying this is a good time to ask me that, because I know you might have bumped into something there. And I experienced it when I was about 24, because I had been failing on top of everything, and I thought it's unfair that people are busy passing, but we studied
Yeah.
together. You study with a group of people, six of you. You study from the same book, same hours. You drink the same coffee, same pizza. You go to the test, and then they get 60 and you get 30. How fair is that?
Never fair.
It was not. It was not fair. I have one example. This one day, my best friend and the other group, we studied chemistry, and he said, let's cross night because we were writing tomorrow. So the whole night we studied. I was there, but the following day when I was writing that chemistry test, my brain shut down. They passed, I failed, and I felt it was very unfair. But that's because I didn't understand. Not all of us are meant to study all night. Some of us can only study in the morning. Some
Yeah.
of us only study in the afternoon. And it's okay to be different. It is okay to be different. Just be the best in what you are made for.
Mr. Sepo, in fact, you have right now you have really made me unlearn something I have accepted for a very long time. I
Mm,
have always believed and have come to accept that life is unfair.
mm,
But in fact, you have made me analyze so many things that life is really and truly fair to everyone.
mm.
Life is really fair to everyone.
Yes.
I would like you to repeat that word again. Life
Mm.
is fair because it is unfair to everyone.
Yep. Life is fair because it is unfair to everyone. In my class this year, Mr. Dax, I must tell you, I teach grade 3. They are 9 years old. So one of my students, I only have one black student. That black student, he's such a hard worker. So every time he would get an award, he's in the class. There's a list. You put your name up, and if you get to the top, you get the most points at the end of the day. So this
Yeah.
other day, he had more points. Normally, people score 5 points. He had 15 points. And the other students were like, why? It's so unfair in this class. Why does he get all the points? And I told them, when he raised up his hand, where was your hand? They went silent. When he answered the question, where was your answer? Silence. When he stood up and went to put his name, why were you not saying anything at that time? He went silence. I said, you know what? You think it's unfair, but I think it's fair. The one who works
Yeah.
hard will get what he deserves. The one who doesn't work hard will also get what they deserve, which is nothing. So it's unfair to everybody.
Wow. Interesting. In fact, everybody must get this book because this book will help you avoid going to the hospital to get any drug. It is an antivirus which will help you in every emotion. This is really true because I I feel like just few of the things we have just discussed is what many people are going through.
Mm,
Everybody goes through emotions, even with we males, so much.
mm,
Every male must get this book,
yeah,
especially
especially.
that cloud has a silver lining. Before we leave, and because of our time and our viewers who are watching live, thank you very much for staying tuned. But it is emotions that made you write this book. Do you think there will be more books upcoming, or unless there's emotions?
Yes, there's definitely going to be a book. I'm writing a book at the moment, but it can only be released at the end of next year because it's meant to be like a journal where where instead of writing it poetically, I put my emotions on paper
Yes.
for the day of what I'm going through, and finally it builds up to what I've been thinking about the whole year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So journal. Some people don't gel well with poetry, but with a personal expression of what's really going on, they can easily understand. So this time around, I thought of not writing so poetically, but rather writing a deeper expression of what I'm going through.
Well, I think that will go a long way to help people
Yeah,
because people are so lazy to read. They don't like poems. That is one thing I've really realized.
yeah.
But then, after having you explain this, like it has, I feel like I should reread this book whilst you are with me, so that
Okay.
I'll just ask you what's the meaning of this because wow,
Very true. Very true.
interesting. I guess, is this your first book or you had books before this?
This is my first book because it's three books in one. It's basically a whole three books that I put into one. So inside it's broken up into themes. You'll see it's got themes for each set of poems. I would consider them as each a book.
Wow. This
Mm.
being your first book,
Yeah,
what
that's why
are
it's
the
so.
things?
I mean, it's thick, just thick as the Bible. Did you see?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah.
It being your first book, what are the things you wish you knew before writing this book?
Yeah, I wish I knew that as a writer you have to market yourself. I thought that when you write a book and you put it on Amazon, they'll do the sales for you. You just collect the money. Ching, ching. Big lies. Yeah, and I also thought as a writer you just instantly become famous, but there's a lot of work that you have to do in order to get there. Yeah,
Wow. I also thought, okay, because I've never written a book, maybe I thought
yeah.
those platforms are there to even market the books for you, but you are supposed to even market it yourself.
You
Oh,
must do the work. You must do the work. It requires a lot of work. Um, Amazon will just put the book on their platform, but who's gonna let people know that your book is on Amazon? You must do it. You must go on Facebook. You must go on WhatsApp. You must go on WeChat. You must go on Instagram and every type of platform, even requiring that you might open a TikTok, even though you never had TikTok. You might as well go there. because you need to sell your book. Nobody's gonna sell it for you.
Mm, interesting. So that is in the form of marketing side. In terms of writing the book itself and the process of publishing and stuff,
Yeah.
what advice will you give to anyone in
Mm.
the process of writing or is about to write any book?
If you are about to write, it is very important that you have a routine. You must have a set time every day where you'll be sitting down, typing down your book or writing it. Because if you don't, you might never finish your book. You
Okay.
need to have the time and the discipline. I used to spend 2 hours every day typing these poems into my laptop and editing them. So the time is important, and the discipline to finish the book. Once you finished one book, I promise you, you can do two and three and four and five. The discipline is important.
Wow, discipline.
Mm.
A- Apart from you being an author, who is your favorite author, whether alive or dead?
Woo!
Who is that
That
one person?
that question is so hard. Ah, I've been thinking about it all afternoon. One person, Langston Hughes.
Langston
Langston
Hughes.
Hughes. Yeah, he was the author of many poems as well. A Black American writer, and his poems were put into jazz music. So he would recite his poetry, and they'd be playing jazz in the background. I love it, and I love him because mostly he spoke about his identity. He was
Yeah,
always reaffirming his identity in the midst of where your identity is crushed, because he was in the era of the Renaissance, where the black people were oppressed in America, and he
yeah.
kept on finding himself through his poetry that, listen, I'm black, but I'm beautiful. I'm black and I'm wonderful. I'm black and I can write. I'm black and I can sing. I'm black and I can, and his poems are amazing. They are so easy to read, so easy to understand, and so easy to relate to. I liked him because I can relate.
Ooh, that's
Lang.
so powerful. We have several instances where people turn books into movies.
Mm.
Have you ever thought to turn this your book into a movie in the future? Because right now I've learned how you were expressing the challenges you were going through in 9 years. And I'm thinking of if this could be in a form of movies, like it would be so easy to teach others, guide others, inspire others. I
Wow.
feel like few people really read books. Have you ever
Mm.
thought of this?
Wow. Dax, I have to tell you, this is the first time I'm even thinking about it, of taking that cloud has a silver lining and making it a movie. Whew. Wow, that would be a very long journey. But if Mandela could do it, so could I. And yeah, wow, that's a very big challenge. I think I was thinking of something else. I thought of writing an autobiography later that can become a movie. But if you thinking that cloud has a silver lining can be a movie, you're probably right.
Why don't you think so? I had the mindset of life is never fair.
Yeah.
And within a twinkle of an eye, you have come to unlearn that mindset I have had since over a decade. And you are saying it can be a movie?
Ah, wow. I honestly have never thought of making that book a movie, because I take every poem as a story on its own. Every single poem in there is a story. It has a story. And so if I had to make that into a poem, that would make it 36 stories. Unless if I make it a series, and every series, just like Sheldon, young Sheldon, has an episode and it has its different emotion. Maybe that
Yeah.
would work better for this book.
Yeah. You could see we just talked
Talk
about
about.
just a few parts of the book. We didn't even Just, but it has taken us more than an hour now.
Yeah.
And because of time, I wish we could have even talked more about it. So
Yeah.
just one of them. And don't you think that can inspire so many people?
I think
Somebody who was able to finish school within 6 years instead of 3 years.
mm,
That is really a story people need. I feel like
mm,
these days, the movies we have are just romantic movies,
yeah.
these things which are unreal, you know.
Mm, mm. Hmm, you're right. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's a
In
that's a
fact,
pro- that's a
I'm
project
not
I
pushing you. Yeah,
Hey!
I'm not pushing you to think so much, but this is a form to applaud you and really honor you for this great work.
I really appreciate the honor that I'm given. When you write those poetry, you don't think about the impact they will have on other people. Honestly, I was not so involved of how it will affect others, but now I see it later, years later, that actually it does have the power that I never imagined. But that power was
Yeah.
working in me, and now it has the ability to work in other people. So that's why I had to put it on paper.
Wow. Interesting. Mr. Sepo, thank you very much for
Mhm.
having the time to inspire all of us with your book and taking the time to bring this book out for everyone. Before we leave, what are some of your last words for anyone who is doubting of getting this book?
My last words for anybody who's doubting to get that book is that you need to go to my YouTube channel. You will find at least 7 or 8 of those poems as a video format. So you can see what the video shows, and you can imagine. You don't even have to imagine, because the video is already showing you what it is I'm talking about. So that's what makes it so helpful. When you see the poetry in the video, you will understand why it's important to get the book.
Wow, that's amazing. We have one of our
Eh,
viewers, one of our favorite viewers. He's always online when we are
yeah.
watching. He
Uh-huh.
said, Fat Crack, he's always live whenever I'm online. He's from the UK. And he's
Wow.
saying, could I have a signed copy of his book so I can put it on my bookshelf?
Wow. I would really love that. Ah, the problem is I'm in China. So getting it to the UK would be
It's
something.
possible. We can do that. It's yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think let's get in touch, and we can make a plan for you.
Yeah, sure.
Mm.
Fat Crack, thank you very much for being one of our favorite viewers and audience. Anytime I'm on live, he's always here to
Wow.
watch. Thank you so much for staying tuned. And we have one of our viewers. Thank you very much for this video. This is really inspiring. And thank you very much for also watching to this end. And to those who will be watching pre-recorded, we had our special guest. He is an author known as Tshepo, and his book is titled That Silver
Ekla.
Has it's a
That's so
silver has a
lining.
silver lining. Sorry. That cloud has a silver lining. And after him sharing his story, I'm really inspired. I'm really inspired, motivated, educated, unlearned so many things just from this book. And I'll recommend to everyone to get this book. It will really impact your life. It will really motivate you in so many ways you can never even think of or imagine of. In case somebody wants to reach you, where can they reach you? And even before we leave, I know it has not been only by your work that you have been able to come out with this book. Which are the people you like to acknowledge?
I would like to acknowledge my wife, who was there throughout the process. When I started to put it together, she was there, and she kept on motivating me to the end. I would like to acknowledge my sister. My sister went and found those books. They were very old and cracked and like this. And she found them, she packaged them, and she sent them to China for me.
Oh,
So I did the whole typing while I was in China. And then I sent it back to South Africa to publish it there. So I would like to thank Reach Publishers. They are the publishing company through which I published. They put together the design team. They gave me you saw the clouds that's inside. The book looks beautiful inside. They gave me
yeah.
the design ideas and even ideas for the cover. That was amazing. And I would also like to thank my mother and father, who are the inspiration behind the poetry. They are the ones who I always bored with my poems. On their birthdays, I always gave them a new poem. Mom, this was for your birthday. Dad, this is for your birthday. And they never once discouraged me about my poetry. They always told me this is too good to be kept to yourself.
Indeed. And this
Yeah.
is really too good to have kept this to yourself. Thank you
Mm.
very much for sharing to the world freely. And guys, you can just get this at just few bucks on Amazon and all other platforms. That cloud has a silver lining, and you will learn so much from this book. And to our viewers who are watching live and those who will be watching pre-recorded, thank you very much for staying tuned. This week we are coming with you with virtual book tour where we'll be having authors based in China to share their reason and their story of why they came out with those books. And I know they'll be motivating you, they'll be inspiring you, they'll be guiding you in so many ways. Stay tuned as tomorrow we'll be having another guest, an author who will be sharing her life story and why she have that book. We have so much in tune for you. Stay tuned. Don't forget, this is the only live podcast based in China. Don't forget to follow all our platforms, subscribe, follow, and like for more content from this platform. If you need anything from China, you can reach us and we'll get it done for you. If you need this book, any platform, and you can check in the description box if you want to contact the author personally for collaborations, for anything of that sort. He is always available to do that. Mr. Tshepo, thank you so much for inspiring us with your emotions. Thank you so much for not using your emotions as something negative or bad to your
Mm.
life, but making us realize and believe that emotions which we think are negative can become a book, which
Mm.
we have been discussing today. A
Mm.
book which is motivating others and will be motivating, inspiring others. We are really honored to have that. And we must applaud you for that great work. You are the great author. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Buck. Thank you for hosting me. This without this platform, I think I would feel very discouraged. But because of your amazing questions and your lovely audience as well, I'm very motivated. I'm gonna write more just because of you guys, and I'm gonna take your idea on.
Wow. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and our viewers. Stay tuned for more videos and more live podcasts like this. Until then, see you. And this is where time will permit us to end today's discussion. Bye bye.